All right guys, in this video, I'm gonna talk about why training at a total gym or sliding bench trainer can be better than traditional free weights, better than resistance bands, better than calisthenics. Now, I'm not saying a total gym is the best way to gain muscle or resistance training, because being the best really is ultimately up to something that fits your goals, preferences, lifestyle, and what you ultimately are gonna adhere to in the long term. But if you're like the vast majority of people I know and talk to, most people are seeking to resistance train primarily for functional strength for everyday lives, not necessarily looking to compete in some sort of powerlifting or bodybuilding show. And they preferably are looking for something that is time efficient, not boring, they don't have to go to the gym, and is relatively a low cost of entry. As always guys, please consider like, sharing, subscribing to this content. There's gonna be a lot of equipment featured in this video, so definitely check the description box down below if you guys wanna check it out and support the channel. All right, let's talk about resistance bands first. Some of the pros, obvious pros about resistance bands are the fact that they are cheap, relatively cheap, I'll get into that. Low cost of entry, extremely portable, extremely versatile in the way you can kind of use these things. Tons of different ways to progress on the exercise, which is definitely really cool. And some people actually do prefer, and there's a lot of people on the internet that really promote the idea that resistance bands are all you need. You can really benefit from this variable resistance, meaning the harder you kind of press, the harder it kind of fights against you. And that, again, the big selling point in a lot of these companies is that you can get equal to about 80 pounds of resistance and counterweight with a band as you would in a very expensive dumbbell or weight plate. I'm not gonna really get into that argument so much, but let's just jump into the cons right here. First of which being that resistance. Some people love this resistance. I like it once in a while. I personally find this kind of variable resistance just honestly to get kind of annoying after a bit. I definitely like it. I like incorporating. I get great pumps when I kind of use it, when I don't necessarily use it that often. The fact is I gotta find different anchor points. It's kind of a slower workout because I'm trying to fine tune different positions and exercise the kind of fit that suits me. And let's be honest, yes, there's tons of different options, tons of different ways to kind of attach the bands, but sometimes you're honestly settling for like second best in a lot of these exercises, where preferably if I could grab a dumbbell, kettlebell, obviously a total gym, I'd much rather prefer to use those. While they are low cost of entry, honestly guys, bands are gonna wear out over time, so they might seem relatively inexpensive. Some of these aren't really that cheap in my opinion. That, yeah, while they do kind of feel safer on your joints, more forgiving to a lot of people, I kind of find it actually puts some unnecessary stress on my lower back or my elbows or a certain position that isn't as smooth and fluid as, let's say, a cable machine or some sort of dumbbell or kettlebell or a total gym. All right, and then talking probably the king and most famous of all resistance training are just general free weights, barbells and dumbbells. This is the default to most of you guys who kind of grew up or just started using resistance training for the first time. I'm not gonna knock these and say these things are bad in any shape or form for building muscle and getting strong. We all kind of know they definitely do that. They're also really good at just stimulating bone growth compared to all different types of resistance training that's out there. Teaches you guys some good foundational movement patterns. It's definitely kind of a skill for some people, especially if we're talking just free weights versus machines. So that's definitely a plus, kind of learning those things. Very extremely efficient at building strength and building muscle, no question about it. Those are all definitely the pros, you guys know that. Now the cons for a lot of people is why some people don't even necessarily even think about getting into it is one, they can be kind of intimidating. I'm not saying that's an excuse for some people. Definitely do it if you're kind of somewhat interested, but they can be expensive. Certainly buying a squat rack, buying a bunch of extra weight plates and stuff like that for your home gym can definitely build up an extra added expense. Higher of a learning curve, and I would say a learning curve that's worth doing, at least kind of learning some of these foundational movements like squatting, deadlifting. But there's some people out there that really have no interest in learning these types of exercises. They don't want to risk any kind of potential injury in learning these new skills. They don't put in the extra time. One of the very common comments I get very often as people coming to the channel is that they're coming off from like being years of bodybuilding, powerlifting, just going to the gym in general, and even they kind of do a little bit of both, and they always kind of tell me whenever they work out in a total gym or some sort of sliding bench trainer, their body just feels not as stiff in the morning. And so I'm not saying these things, obviously with proper form and technique and kind of watching yourself, you certainly can resistance train very safely into an old age. I'm not saying you're gonna inevitably get hurt, but I find a lot of people oftentimes, more times than not, maybe because of lack of technique, maybe lack of patience, whatever, can actually kind of push the limits a little bit, and they find that that just using free weights in general isn't as forgiving on their joints. Okay, then there's certainly progressive calisthenics, or just calisthenics, using your body weight for like push-ups, pull-ups, progressing into single arm push-ups, pistol squats, yoga moves, stuff like that. Definitely some of the obvious pros is that you're using your own body weight. What's more functional and cool, just kind of using your own body weight as your own little gym. All ages can kind of take advantage of just using their body weight for resistance. There's no question about that, but kind of leading into the cons, one of the things is, yeah, if you're kind of older, you kind of limited range of motion, maybe some nagging joints and joint injuries and stuff like that, you're gonna be limited to some of those exercises at your disposal. Now, you certainly can degress a lot of these exercises, but that might not be the most interesting thing of the world compared to like later we'll talk about the total gym, which has a lot more options to you if you have limited range of motion or ability. Definitely a cool solid form of exercise, low cost of entry, very cheap, but definitely has a lot of limiting factors if that was your sole form of resistance training. Now we start talking total gym pros and cons. Obviously I'm gonna have a bias here. There certainly are some cons we'll touch on, but when you talk about all the pros, honestly, this thing is the best of both worlds. All the pros we discussed in resistance bands, traditional free weights, calisthenics, can be lumped into the same kind of pros and benefits out of this machine. So first and foremost, the fact that you can vary the different types of resistance. You can get free weight tension from adding on some external weight plates. Obviously, you can use your body weight. You also can attach some resistance bands, so you can get that kind of resistance band type of feel. We didn't even get into the whole idea of how much this thing really replicates the feel of a cable machine or a functional trainer. Even the different types of open and closed chain, different types of exercises, you can vary the given feel and tension and stress on your body parts, which opens up so many different variations and variety on ways you can stress your muscles. Another great pro is the low cost of entry. All different types of models, from really low-end machines to high-end luxury type machines or commercial grade machines. I've said many times on this channel, any machine is good. You can reap benefits on any of those types of models. This also has a low ability cost of entry. So meaning you can be 85 years old down to 15, even like a 5-year-old. I wouldn't recommend doing this without an adult supervision. The point is all ages can actually reap the benefits on this machine. Now, certainly your overall general ability and kind of where you're at, injuries and just what your range of motion is, it may limit some of the capabilities that you can actually do on this machine. But regardless, the point is anybody in all walks of life can jump on this thing and do so in a kind of safe manner. And while it definitely is kind of safe, another pro is that this thing is extremely progressive. I've made all sorts of videos on simple entry-level type positions and exercises, and you can progress this to very advanced, I would say definitely higher risk type exercises. So it's kind of all those things you want to feel comfortable doing. But even though I've showcased a lot of different types of exercises, the possibilities and your creativity on this machine really is endless. But one of the comments I hear from a lot of you guys who are coming off of especially traditional resistance training and free weights often tell me, and I can attest this myself, there's something about this that yes, you can overdo it and get kind of sore and stiff the next day if you overdo it, but I just noticed that soreness and stiffness is never really joint related. A lot of the times it's more muscular related, which is kind of a good thing, but overall people just tell me they feel a lot better, their joints feel a lot better just doing and using this machine. And it's just relatively simple. I don't know how many things or machines that are really out there where you just one simple device that can really rule them all and essentially work your whole entire body with one piece of equipment with a small relative real estate in your house. You can slide it up, fold it underneath your bed. Now, that's not to say this thing is not without its cons. People have often complained and said they feel like certain body parts can be lacking and they don't feel it as much, say like in their chest or maybe their legs. And I always kind of tell them this is one of those things, it is kind of a skill-based machine. I always say you kind of work up into it, which is one of the benefits I like about the thing. Yes, you are limited to the biomechanics of yourself and the confines of the machine, the makeup of the machine, but odds are if you get progressively opened up and your skill level increases, you can open up and try different positions, different exercises that I find, at least for myself, while things I didn't feel at most, let's say like in my chest for some exercises, maybe even my legs, I've often been critical of that a little bit. If you give it time, you get kind of creative and you're kind of patient, especially more with the legs, you don't mind putting a little more extra volume and work, definitely you can work any kind of muscle and stress in any way, shape, or form possible. Again, you're gonna be kind of limited in your own general ability and range of motion, though, but that goes with really any of these things we discussed in this video. Other than specific exercises that maybe you feel like are lacking, you can't do maybe in a gym or some other specialized machine, I would say the other thing that I always kind of be mindful with other people is even though I like this thing and think it's really fun and I don't get bored of it, with any machine, especially if you're doing something in your house, there is that potential of just being bored and kind of feeling like, well, you've kind of done enough of the machine and it's just not as interesting as it once was when you first got it. For that, I warn people that, yeah, you got to give this thing time. You got to try out different things, mix up different exercises, mix up different workouts. That's why this channel is here for you guys as a resource. But if you guys do mix things up, you try different things, you're not sticking to this the same old routine, you will discover that this thing honestly will never get boring. As long as I've been working out at home going on 3+ years, I never thought I'd be working out at home. If it wasn't for this machine, there's no question I wouldn't be working out at home. I'd be back in the gym in no time because I get pretty bored of just doing traditional squat racks and stuff like that. There's only so much space, only so much of my budget that I can afford to add extra machine and equipment. This thing does essentially everything I need it to, which is why I love this machine. And as you guys can see in this video, guys, I've tried all sorts of modes of resistance training and nothing has really excited me more, made resistance training more fun, made my workouts more efficient, and honestly challenged me physically and creatively to discover new exercises than these total gyms. So if this is you guys, if you guys share my passion, if you guys have any questions, definitely let me know down in the comment section. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys for watching.